All right. So we read, in fact, 14:4. Maybe we can revisit it real quick. Yeah, I think so. Here in chapter 14 of Numbers, we read yesterday. I'm just going to quote from verse 3. 4 is the main one, 4, but I'll read 3 and 4. The people complain. Why is the Lord taking us into that land? We will be killed in battle, and our wives and children will be captured. Wouldn't it be better to go back to Egypt? Verse 4. So they said to one another, let's choose a leader and go back to Egypt. So here at this point, they wanted to get rid of Aaron and Moses and get somebody new, right? Now we're going to find out who that person was going to be. Chapter 16. All right. Korah, son of Izhar, from the Levi clan of Kohath, rebelled against the leadership of Moses. He was joined by three members of the tribe of Reuben, Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, and by 250 other Israelites, well-known leaders chosen by the community. 3. They assembled before Moses and Aaron and said to them, you have gone too far. All the members of the community belong to the Lord, and the Lord is with all of us. Why then, Moses, do you set yourself above the Lord's community? Korah and his associates had seen the advantages of the priesthood in Egypt. Egyptian priests had great wealth and political influence, something Korah seemed to want for himself. Korah may have assumed that Moses, Aaron, and his sons were trying to make the Israelite priesthood the same kind of political machine, and he wanted to be a part of it. He did not understand that Moses' main ambition was to serve God rather than to control others. When Moses heard this, he threw himself on the ground and prayed. Then he said to Korah and his followers, tomorrow morning the Lord will show us who belongs to him. He will let the one who belongs to him, that is, the one he has chosen, approach him at the altar. Tomorrow morning you and your followers take fire pans, put live coals and incense on them, and take them to the altar. Then we will see which of us the Lord has chosen. You Levites are the ones who have gone too far. Moses continued to speak to Korah. Listen, you Levites, do you consider it a small matter that the God of Israel has set you apart from the rest of the community so that you can approach him, perform your service in the Lord's tent, and minister to the community and serve them? He has let you and all the other Levites have this honor. And now you are trying to get the priesthood too. When you complain against Aaron, it is really against the Lord that you and your followers are rebelling. Moses saw through the rebels' charges to the true motivation. Some of the Levites coveted the power of the priesthood. Like Korah, sometimes people desire the special positions God has given to others. Korah had significant, worthwhile abilities and responsibilities of his own. In the end, however, his ambition for more caused him to lose everything. Inappropriate ambition is greed in disguise. Concentrate on finding the special purpose God has for you instead of wishing you were in someone else's shoes. 12. Then Moses sent for Dathan and Abiram, but they said, we will not come. Isn't it enough that you have brought us out of this fertile land of Egypt to kill us here in the wilderness? Do you also have to lord it over us? You certainly have not brought us into a fertile land or given us fields and vineyards as our possession, and now you're trying to deceive us. We will not come. Okay, one of the easiest ways to fall away from following God is to look at our present problems and exaggerate them. Dathan and Abiram did just that when they began to long to miss the better food and pleasant surroundings that Egypt, the place they had longed to leave, was now looking better and better. They were ready to look past the slavery and the taskmasters because they were thinking about the mouth-watering food. These two men and their followers had completely lost their perspective. When we take our eyes off God and start looking at ourselves and our problems, we begin to lose our perspective as well. Overrating problems can stop your relationship with God. Do not let difficulties make you lose sight of God's direction in your life. Okay. Moses became angry and said to the Lord, "Do not accept any offerings these men bring. I have not wronged any of them. I have not even taken one of their donkeys." Moses said to Korah, "Tomorrow you and your 250 followers must come to the tent of the Lord's presence. Aaron will also be there. Each of you would take his fire pan, put incense on it, and then present it at the altar." So they each took their fire pans, put live coals and incense on them, and stood at the entrance of the tent with Moses and Aaron. Then Korah gathered the whole community, and they stood facing Moses and Aaron at the entrance of the tent. Suddenly, the dazzling light of the Lord's presence appeared to the whole community. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Move back from these people, and I will destroy them immediately." But Moses and Aaron bowed down with their faces to the ground and said, "Oh God, you are the source of all life. When one of us sins, do you become angry with the whole community?" The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the people to move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." Then Moses, accompanied by the leaders of Israel, went to Dathan and Abiram. He said to the people, "Get away from the tents of these wicked men, and do not touch anything that belongs to them. Otherwise, you will be wiped out with them for all their sins." So they moved away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Dathan and Abiram had come out and were standing at the entrance of their tents with their wives and children. Moses said to the people, "This is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things, and that it is not by my own choice that I have done them. If these men pass away a natural death without some punishment from God, then the Lord did not send me. But if the Lord does something unheard of, and the earth opens up and swallows them with all that they own, so that they go down alive to the world of the dead, you will know that these men have rejected the Lord." As soon as he had finished speaking, the ground under Dathan and Abiram split open and swallowed them and their families, together with all of Korah's followers and their possessions. So they went down alive to the world of the dead with their possessions. The earth closed over them, and they vanished. All the people of Israel who were there fled when they heard their cry. They shouted, "Run! The earth might swallow us too." Then the Lord sent a fire that blazed out and burned up the 250 men who had presented the incense. Amen. Okay, the fire pans. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron, that the priest, to remove the bronze fire pans from the remains of those who have been burned, and scatter the coals from the fire pans somewhere else, because the fire pans are holy. They became holy when they were presented at the Lord's altar. So take the fire pans of these who were put to death for their sin, beat them into thin plates, and make a covering for the altar. It'll be a warning to the people of Israel." So Eleazar the priest took the fire pans and had them beaten into thin plates to make a covering for the altar. This was a warning to the Israelites that no one who was not a descendant of Aaron should come to the altar to burn incense for the Lord. Otherwise, he would be destroyed, like Korah and his men. All this was done as the Lord had commanded Eleazar through Moses. Aaron saves the people. The next day, the whole community complained against Moses and Aaron and said, "You have killed some of the Lord's people." After they had all gathered to protest to Moses and Aaron, they turned toward the tent and saw that the cloud was covering it, and that the dazzling light of the Lord's presence had appeared. Moses and Aaron went and stood in front of the tent. And the Lord said to Moses, "Move back from these people, and I will destroy them on the spot." The two of them bowed down with their faces to the ground, and Moses said to Aaron, "Take your fire pan, put live coals from the altar in it, and put some incense on the coals. Then hurry with it to the people and perform the ritual of purification for them. Hurry! The Lord's anger has already broken out, and an epidemic has already begun." Aaron obeyed, took his fire pan, and ran into the middle of the assembled people. When he saw that the plague had already begun, he put the incense on the coals and performed the ritual of purification for the people. This stopped the plague, and he was left standing between the living and the dead. The number of people who died was 14,700, not counting those who died in Korah's rebellion. When the plague had stopped, Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tent. Amen. Let me have a drink of water. Hold on, please. All right. Aaron's walking stick. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the people of Israel to give you 12 walking sticks, one from the leaders, one from the leader of each tribe. Write each man's name on his stick, and then write Aaron's name on the stick representing Levi. There will be one stick for each tribe leader. Take them to the tent of my presence and put them in front of the covenant box where I meet you. Then the stick of the man I have chosen will sprout. In this way I will put a stop to the constant complaining of these Israelites against you." So Moses spoke to the Israelites, and each of their leaders gave him a stick, one for each tribe, 12 in all, and Aaron's stick was put with them. Moses then put all the sticks in the tent in front of the Lord's covenant box. The next day, when Moses went into the tent, he saw that Aaron's stick, representing the tribe of Levi, had sprouted. It had budded, blossomed, and produced ripe almonds. Moses took all the sticks and showed them to the Israelites. They saw what had happened, and each leader took his own stick back. The Lord said to Moses, "Put Aaron's stick back in front of the covenant box. It is to be kept as a warning to the rebel Israelites that they will die unless their complaining stops." Moses did as the Lord commanded. The people of Israel said to Moses, "Then that's the end of us. If anyone who even comes near the tent must die, then we are all as good as dead." So, after witnessing spectacular miracles, seeing the Egyptians punished by the plagues, and experiencing the actual presence of God, the Israelites still complained and rebelled. We wonder how they could be so blind and ignorant, and yet we often repeat the same pattern. We have centuries of stories of God's work around the world, access to the Bible in many languages and translations, and the evidence of the transforming work of the Holy Spirit in the lives of people around us. But people today continue to disobey God and go their own way. Like the Israelites, we are more concerned about our physical condition than our spiritual condition. We can escape this pattern only by paying attention to all the signs of God's presence that we have been given. The question is, has God guided and protected you? Has He answered your prayers? Do you know people who have experienced remarkable blessings and healing? Do you know Bible stories about the way God has led His people? Focus your thoughts on what God has done, and rebellion will become unthinkable. Unthinkable. Now, there's a couple of things we're going to talk about. Hopefully, you guys not allergic to any kind of nuts, but basically, what we're going to talk about here is why almonds. What's the big deal here? Why did this stick sprout almonds of all things? Why not raisins? Why not grapes? Why not something else, right? Why almonds? Well, the Hebrew word for almond means to watch or to be awake. What does this mean? Well, let's go a little further. The cups of the golden lampstand in the tabernacle, no, the tent, they were shaped like almonds. Why? The connection is that the almond trees blossom in the spring before other trees. So, what's the big deal with this? Well, let me explain. Watchfulness is the point of the sanctuary lamps. Burning all night, the Lord is constantly awake and vigilant. So that's the symbol of the almonds. The same almonds that the lamps inside the tabernacle has, and which basically means watchfulness, to be awake, to always be there, which is what the Lord is always present and always awake and always aware of what's going on. Um, for more reference to this, you can look at Psalm 121, verse 4, if you guys want more about the almonds. All right, so let's continue with 18. Let me see here. Okay. The Lord said to Aaron, "You, your sons, and the Levites must suffer the consequences of any guilt connected with serving in the tent of my presence. But only you and your sons will suffer the consequences of service in the priesthood. Bring in your relatives, the tribe of Levi, to work with you and help you while you and your sons are serving at the tent. They are to fulfill their duties to you and their responsibilities for the tent. But they must not have any contact with sacred objects in the holy place or with the altar. If they do, both they and you will be put to death. They are to excuse me, they are to work with you and fulfill their responsibilities for all the service in the tent. But no unqualified person may work with you. You and your sons alone must fulfill their responsibilities for the holy place and the altar, so that my anger will not again break out against the people of Israel. I am the one who has chosen your relatives, the Levites, from among the Israelites as a gift to you. They are dedicated to me so that they can carry out their duties in the tent. But you and your sons alone shall fulfill all the responsibilities of the priesthood that concern the altar and what is in the most holy place. These things are your responsibility because I have given you the gift of the priesthood. Any unqualified person who comes near the sacred objects shall be put to death. 8. The Lord said to Aaron, "Remember that I'm giving you all the special contributions made to me that are not burned as sacrifices. I'm giving them to you and to your descendants as a part assigned to you forever." So, in other words, the priests were to give their full attention and time to fulfilling all the responsibilities in the tabernacle itself. This was their ancestral duty. But how would they be paid? The Lord set up a system where the priests would live off the offerings presented by the people. If the people were not faithful in bringing their offerings and sacrifices, then the priestly system would shut down. In the New Testament, Paul was not shy about exhorting the churches to give generously to support professional church workers. Today, the same principle applies. Professional church workers give their full time to service in the church and should be paid from a portion of the offerings given by the people. Amen. Let's go to see verse 9. Of the most sacred offerings not burned on the altar, the following belong to you: the grain offerings, the sin offerings, and the repayment offerings. Everything that is presented to me as a sacred offering belongs to you and your sons. You must eat these things in a holy place, and only males may eat them. Consider them holy. In addition, any other special contributions that the Israelites present to me shall be yours. I'm giving them to you, your sons, and your daughters for all time to come. Every member of your family who is ritually clean may eat them. I'm giving you all the best of the first produce, which the Israelites give me each year: olive oil, wine, grain. It all belongs to you. Every member of your family who is ritually clean may eat it. Everything in Israel that has been unconditionally dedicated to me belongs to you. Every firstborn child or animal that the Israelites present to me belongs to you. But you must accept payment to buy back every firstborn child, and must also accept payment for every firstborn animal that is ritually unclean. Children shall be brought back, sorry, Children shall be bought back at the age of 1 month for the fixed price of 5 pieces of silver, according to the official standard. But the firstborn of cows, sheep, and goats are not to be bought back. They belong completely to me and are to be sacrificed. Throw their blood against the altar and burn their fat as a food offering, an odor pleasing to me. The meat from them belongs to you, like the breast and the right hind leg of the special offering. I'm giving to you, to your sons, and to your daughters for all time to come, all the special contributions which the Israelites present to me. This is an unbreakable covenant that I have made with you and your descendants. The Lord said to Aaron, you will not receive any property that can be inherited, and no part of the land of Israel will be assigned to you. I, the Lord, am all you need. 21. The Lord said, I have given to the Levites every tithe that the people of Israel present to me. This is in payment for their service in taking care of the tent of my presence. The other Israelites must no longer approach the tent, and in this way bring on themselves the penalty of death. From now on, only the Levites will take care of the tent and bear the full responsibility for it. This is a permanent rule that applies also to your descendants. The Levites shall have no permanent property in Israel, because I have given to them as their possession the tithe which the Israelites present to me as a special contribution. That is why I have told them that they would have no permanent property in Israel. The Levites' tithe. The Lord commanded Moses to say to the Levites, when you receive from the Israelites the tithe that the Lord gives you as your possession, you must present a tenth of it as a special contribution to the Lord. This special contribution will be considered as the equivalent of the offering which the farmer makes of new grain and new wine. In this way, you also will present the special contribution that belongs to the Lord from all the tithes which you receive from the Israelites. You are to give the special contribution for the Lord to Aaron the priest. Give it in front of the Give it from the best that you receive. When you have presented the best part, you may keep the rest, just as the farmer keeps what is left after he makes his offering. You and your families may eat the rest anywhere because it is your wages for your service in the tent. You will not become guilty when you eat it, as long as you have presented the best of it to the Lord. But be sure not to profane the sacred gifts of the Israelites by eating any of the gifts before the best part is offered. If you do, you will be put to death. Okay. 19. We talked about this briefly a couple of days ago, the red heifer, the red cow. I do have a couple of things about this when we get at the end to this little section here. Why a red cow? Does it have to be red? Why? What's the big deal with a red heifer? What's the difference from a red heifer to a red cow? We're going to talk about those things. The Lord commanded Moses and Aaron to give the Israelites the following regulations. Bring to Moses and Aaron a red cow, which has no defects and which has never been worked, and they will give it to Eleazar the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp and killed in his presence. Then Eleazar is to take some of its blood and with his finger sprinkle it 7 times in the direction of the tent. The whole animal, including skin, meat, blood, and intestines, is to be burned in the presence of the priest. Then he is to take some cedar wood, a sprig of hyssop, and a red cord, and throw them into the fire. After that, he is to wash his clothes and pour water over himself, and then he may enter the camp, but he remains ritually unclean until evening. The one who burned the cow must also wash his clothes and pour water over himself, but he is also to remain unclean until evening. Then someone who is ritually clean is to collect the ashes of the cow, put them in a ritually clean place outside the camp where they are to be kept for the Israelite community to use in preparing the water for removing ritual uncleanness. This ritual is performed to remove sin. The one who collected the ashes must wash his clothes, but he remains unclean until evening. This regulation is valid for all time to come, both for the Israelites and for the foreigners living among them. Okay, and then we talked about what constitutes being unclean when you touch a corpse and stuff like that, right? Let's go back here about this red cow. In many translations, it says red heifer, a red heifer. Now, there's some questions here that anybody would normally have. Is this still valid now? Why a red heifer? Why not just a red cow? Well, does it have to be red? Can it be unperfect, unblemished? What's the deal with the blood, right? Okay. Now, this I showed you a video a few days ago, right? From YouTube that shows how these people in Israel right now, these last year, 2 years, even this year, they're getting these red heifers that they obtained from United States, and they're keeping them already. They're getting them ready for this ceremony, right? I guess they're getting prepared to rebuild the temple at some point soon. But the only problem, there's a few problems with that, what they're doing. First of all, the reason it's a red heifer, meaning it has a red heifer, first of all, it's a young cow, not an old cow. Has to be a relatively young cow, 1 year, maybe 2 years old. So when you have a red heifer that was sent to Israel 2, 3 years ago, it's not going to be a valuable red heifer much longer. But that's something else. We're deviating. Again, what is a red heifer? It is a younger cow called a heifer, for lack of a better term. It has to be young, never been used for plowing. That's a couple of things here. It must never have been used for plowing or pulling a cart or for anything like that at all, first of all. So again, it must be young and never have been used for plowing or pulling a cart. Third, the color is very important to them. It signifies blood. That's why it's a red heifer, signifying or symbolizing blood. We'll get to more of that blood in a second. Okay, so again, qualifications for this red heifer: it must be red, it must be a heifer, which means a younger cow that's never been used for plowing or pulling a cart, and must be without any blemishes. So, going back to the color, why red? It's the color of blood. What's the big deal with blood? There's blood everywhere here, right? Why not just get a brown cow and cut it? It'll be red with the blood. It's not the point. The blood signifies something important. Blood is the most potent cleansing and sanctifying agent in the Bible. for many different reasons. That this is, by the way, in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 22. I will repeat this again. Blood is known to be the most potent, cleansing, and sanctifying agent in the Bible. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 22. Also, purification properties. Remember how the priest would splatter some of the blood of other sacrifices over the altar and other places to purify, right? Okay, there's more here. Now, so notice one thing important. I even slowed down. Look what it says in verse 5. The whole animal, including skin, meat, blood, and intestines. What's the big deal here? Normally, in all sacrifices, the blood is drained out. The blood is drained out. No blood is supposed to be burnt. So why is it burnt here? Again, it's the purification properties of burnt blood. It is, like I said before, it's a very potent sanctifying agent in the Bible. Now, so some people wonder, okay, I can kind of understand that. What's the big deal with the cedar wood, the sprig of hyssop, and a red cord? Why a red cord? Why not a purple cord? Why not just a piece of wheat or something? Again, the symbolism is very, very important to these people. The red cord again signifies the color of the blood, the sanctifying and cleansing agent of blood, right? In Hebrews chapter 9. So what about the cedar? What about the hyssop? Again, they're other traditional and symbolic cleansing items. They're also thrown into the fire, traditional or symbolic. The cedar wood, the red yarn, you know, it really wouldn't matter to put the red yarn or not to anybody, right? But to God, it matters because that's part of His instructions. All this is very symbolic. The ashes of this heifer, after it's been burnt, taken outside, the ashes are used to purify, used as purification. They'll put some of the ashes in the water, sprinkle the water on something or somebody, and then they will be purified. So that's the reason why the red heifer and the difference between a heifer and a cow, and why all this thing about the blood and the red yarn and the hyssop branch, cedar, they all have a significance. They all have a significance. All right. Let's go over here. Let me put this over here, please. Hold on. Okay. Contact. Let me see. Yeah, let me read you a little more. I have, a little bit more about the significance of the ashes. Verse 9 and 10, right? The significance of the red heifer ashes. When a person touches a dead body, he or she was considered unclean. In other words, unable to approach God in worship. The ritual described in this passage purified people who had become unclean so that once again they could offer sacrifices and worship God. Death was the strongest of defilements because it was the final result of sin. So, a special sacrifice, the red heifer, was required and had to be offered by someone who was not unclean. When it had been burned on the altar, its ashes were used to purify water for ceremonial cleansing, not so much for physically being cleansed, but symbolically. The unclean people then washed themselves and often their clothes and belongings with this purified water as an act of becoming clean again. Okay, verse 11. Those who touch a corpse are ritually unclean for 7 days. They must purify themselves with the water for purification on the third day and on the seventh day, and they will be clean. But if they do not purify themselves on both the third and the seventh day, they will not be clean. Those who touch a corpse and do not purify themselves remain unclean, because the water for purification has not been thrown over them. They defile the Lord's tent, and they will no longer be considered God's people. In the case of a person who dies in a tent Anyone who is in the tent at the time of death or who enters it becomes ritually unclean for 7 days. Every jar and pot in the tent that has no lid on it also becomes unclean. If any touch a person who has been killed or has died a natural death outdoors, or if any touch a human bone or a grave, they become unclean for 7 days. To remove the uncleanness, some ashes from the red cow, which was burned to remove sin, shall be taken and put in a pot, and fresh water added. In the first case, someone who is ritually clean is to take a sprig of hyssop, dip it in the water, and sprinkle the tent, everything in it, and the people who were there. In the second case, someone who is ritually clean is to sprinkle the water on those who had touched the human bone, or the dead body, or the grave. On the third day and on the seventh, the person who is ritually clean is to sprinkle the water on the unclean persons. On the seventh day, he is to purify those who, after washing their clothes and pouring water over themselves, become ritually clean at sunset. Those who have become ritually unclean and do not purify themselves remain unclean, because the water for purification has not been thrown over them. They defile the Lord's tent and will no longer be considered God's people. You are to observe this rule for all time to come. The person who sprinkles the water for purification must also wash his clothes. Anyone who touches the water remains ritually unclean until evening. Whatever the unclean person touches is unclean, and anyone else who touches it remains unclean until evening. Amen.